If your brand isn't using sound strategically, you're not just missing an opportunity, you're leaving money and recognition on the table. Imagine someone scrolling TikTok, Instagram, and they hear two notes and they know exactly who it is. And of course, I'm referencing like Netflix with the ta-dum, or McDonald's with the ba-da-ba-ba-ba, which is now... That's quite good. And then Intel, which obviously everyone just knows. I can't redo it, but you know it went so well when you hear it. And they're billion-dollar assets. Studies are backing this up, and brands that use a sound consistently have their own identity, are actually recognizable 8.5 times faster than those brands without. So today I'm going to show you how sonic branding actually works, what it's actually costing brands that don't have it in place, and then 3 ways to implement it literally today. So stick around. My intention here is to show you how to do this, give you the framework, and also just prove that you don't need a massive budget to get going. All these agencies that are trying to charge you hundreds of thousands of pounds, just not necessary. So grab a coffee. Hopefully I've got your interest. I'm going to share my screen and take you through this step by step. So why brands are losing millions ignoring sound. The cost of being forgettable. What is the cost? Well, in marketing, attention is currency, as you already know. So sound is an asset that most brands are currently ignoring. When brand is silent, you're relying on only visuals, which take longer for the brain to process and take longer for people to remember, and also you're not hitting the emotional value in the same way that sound does. We all have a song that really, hits home, or we remember, or it makes us feel a certain way. And when you start to trust brands and you start to get to know what they sound like as well, the sound of Netflix will make you feel a certain way. And maybe that is, oh, I'm excited for a film tonight. In a noisy, scroll-heavy world, no sound means no shortcut to recognition. And so many brands are just using library music, stock music, because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's easier. But think about all the opportunity that's being left on the table. And you don't need to be a big brand with lots of recognition in order to utilize this. If anything, I'd say there's so many big brands that aren't utilizing this. The smaller you are right now, the more ahead you're going to be ahead of the curve. I was having a conversation this morning with someone who was saying, yeah, but visual logos this and visual logos that. And I was thinking, that's the way that everybody's been doing it. It's almost the way we've been programmed, is to think about visual logos first. But who's going to be the next brand that becomes known for their sound before they get known for their visual? I think that's the world we're literally moving into now with social media. That costs you repeat attention, loyalty, and share of mind, all of which translate directly to revenue. All of these things, we're talking about unlocking value here. More recognition, more front of mind for most brands to their audience. It's just going to make you more sales. And we all know that the easiest sales to make is repeat clients. It's repeat customers. So if we can stay front of mind, and sound is a great way to do that, it's kind of making your life easier. And we all want that, definitely. So why visual branding alone isn't enough anymore? Visuals trigger recognition when people see your brand. But what about when they can't see your brand? So imagine we've all been sat on a train and somebody's got some audio on their phones. If your sound is played in that moment, maybe they watch an advert or something on social media comes up, that is an opportunity for you to get marketing in front of the whole carriage of people. Maybe that's a bit of an extreme example, but it's one that I'm sure you can think of and relate to a multitude of different scenarios as well. TV, you go out of the room to make a coffee or make a tea because you're watching a TV show, an advert comes on, you're not watching the screen. In fact, I think it's something like 83%, it's something in the 80s, 83% of people, let's say, are on their phone when advert breaks come on, when commercial breaks happen. So how do you get their attention? How do you advertise to those people that aren't watching the screen? Or how do you cause them to look up? I don't know if any of you remember the pot noodle advert, for those of you that are in the UK. I think it's 2 years ago that was out, and it was 12 seconds of somebody going, and it was a horrible noise, but everyone that was on their phone was like looking up, and you've got attention there straight away. It's also a great talking point as well. And I know that the way they developed that ad was sound first, and then they developed all the visuals around it. And it was the highest performing ad for Unilever, I believe. It was up to 5 years, and it might have even been 5 years. It beat like years worth of records, and that was sound first. So think about those opportunities. There's some great case studies about that pot noodle, if you give it a Google. Sound works when requiring direct visual attention. It's passive. subconscious. And I think that's the beauty of sound. I think it's also the reason why a lot of people don't think about sound, because it is subconscious. It is something that a lot of the time you feel before you actually recognize it or you pay actual attention to it. It's like in a movie. When was the last time you actually sat and watched a movie and only listened to the soundtrack? Very rarely, but it's adding into the emotion, the feel, the atmosphere of that film. And when it's done well, you almost don't think about it more. Whereas, you don't think about great visuals all the time, or you notice the really bad visuals. But, a good, well-filmed film, there'll be moments where you're like, oh, that looks really nice. But generally speaking, it's just adding into the general suspense or the general feeling of that film. And it's the same with sound. You kind of don't consciously watch a film, you just are watching it. And the same, except you can't close your ears. That's a big point to make. You can't close your ears, but you can close your eyes. So think, you hear the ta-dum of Netflix while you're in the kitchen, and you know what's starting, you know what's happening. You're being marketed to, essentially, or like branded to, when you're not even in the room. It's a second sense your brand could own, and most aren't. It is blowing my mind how many brands are actually in their marketing or in their branding paying attention to sound. Only 4% of marketing budgets get spent on sound, which blows my mind, because I'm sure you'll all agree, more than 4% of impact. Sound drives more than 4% impact when it's done well. So why only spend 4% of budget? Why not double down and get those assets? Science, why sound sticks. So let's delve into this a little bit more. So our brains process sound faster than visuals, and it's 0.146 seconds compared to the 0.25 plus seconds for visuals. A statistic I also read this week, which I find amazing, and I have to keep double checking to make sure I'm getting it right because it seems excessive, but the brain processes sound in an emotional way 100 million times faster than visuals. So by the time you've even realized and consciously worked out what you're looking at, your brain has emotionally made a decision on how it feels about it because of the sound. That blew my mind. 100 million. So it's not 5 times. It's not 2 times. 100 million times faster. So take that one into your next meeting. Sound connects to the emotional and memory centers of the brain. And that's why a jingle from your childhood still pops into your head decades later. We've all got something that we remember from 20 years ago that we'd sing. And sometimes I do this with brands when we're on one-to-one calls. We'll be talking about ads. What was the ad you remember from 10 years ago or 20 years ago? And it's normally an ad that had a great soundtrack or a great sound or a great song that triggers the memory first. And then you remember the visuals. And most of the time in our conversations, that's the way it happens. You remember the song of your favorite girl band, boy band, rather than specific posters. That's a good way to think about it. If your brand isn't tapping into it, you're losing a free memory advantage. So let's talk about 3 opportunities that all brands have. I changed this slide because initially it said 3 opportunities that many brands have, but I stand by this. All brands now have this opportunity. 1, social media content. Missing sonic consistency in short form videos. So like I say, a lot of brands are just using stock library, stock music, no strategy to it. I'm stuttering over my words today because I'm so excited to be sharing this. A lot of brands are just using stock music, and it's random. And, like Darren has broken up with his girlfriend last night, so he's just using sad, slow music on the brand today. And Tracy in the corner has just discovered trance music, and she's obsessed, and suddenly, like, everything's at 140 BPM and everything's super fast. There's a clash there. And if your team don't have any sonic guidelines to be paying attention to be listening to be instructed by, they're just going to be randomly choosing music. And if it's not your team, it's a marketing company, or it's another team of people that you've hired in order to make your content. So don't leave that decision down to them. Also, quick moment just to say, if you are using commercially released music like Lewis Capaldi or Harry Styles, you need a license for that music. If you can find it on Spotify, this is what we always say, if you can find it on Spotify, you need a license for it. If you can't find it on Spotify, you need to triple check everywhere else that it isn't commercially released, but just not on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use. And just assume that you need a license for everything. Honestly, that is the easiest way. Brands like Crumble Cookies, Marriott International, Peloton, Gymshark, Gymshark and Peloton, it was like hundreds of millions they got sued for using just music they shouldn't have been using. It's a very simple mistake to make, but it can cost you so much money. Product experience. No signature sound in product launches, packaging, or other interactions. We are working with a great brand at the minute called Shift. These guys are great. We are recording their product because it just sounds amazing. And every interaction, bit of ASMR for you there. Every interaction with this product sounds great. So we're recording sounds for them to use in all of their social media content. They make some amazing GIFs, like videos that are like stop motion. So we can add some sound and add some feel. You get a real sense of the quality of the product if you can hear it. So brands are starting to be conscious of how they're using sound and even using their product in the sound. Another great one on our website is we worked with a company called Lish. They're a vodka company in Sweden. They're actually the first vodka company to ever have their own sonic branding. And it was an absolute pleasure for us to work on it. It was really fun. The bottle pop, because they have a cork in the top of their vodka. It's a premium bottle, very thick, very dense. We sampled the pop of that bottle. And then I actually sampled it onto my keyboard and we wrote the song using the sound of their bottle pop. Another great one if you want to go check that out. But these are all signature sounds that you can have that are associated with specific launches. It doesn't have to be brand-wide audio. It could be for a specific product or a specific campaign. In fact, I think that's what my next point is. So number 3, campaigns. Visual identity updates for a specific campaign or across a whole brand. Brands are missing the opportunity to also match the sonics with visuals. And I don't mean simply just like having a visual for your animated logo. I'm thinking like when you update your visuals, update your sound as well. It's a great opportunity to have some budget in place to, update those guidelines and have those assets available. Framework, the first sonic step or the sonic first step into your world. This is how I would recommend getting going and getting started. And this isn't advertising us. You can find any way of applying this to your brand. So step 1, audit your content and touch points. Where does sound naturally fit? When was the last time you actually just went through your brand's content, marketing, your simple touch points and focused purely on the sound? A really fun way to analyze it, we say, is like, does it feel like an album? As in a musical album? Does it all sound like it comes from the same place and it feels like the same brand, or is it random? You've got like hip hop music here and then orchestral classical music there and some kind of like heavy rock metal thing over here. Sometimes there's a time and a place for that if you're making like a comedic point or a comedic approach to a campaign or a video. But 9 times out of 10, it's actually just because nobody's been instructed on what to use. And they're maybe using trending audio. So they're stepping into territories of music licensing issues. So when was the last time you actually just had a look and not thought about what it looks like, but what it sounds like? I'd start there. That's step 1. Step 2, pick a temporary anchor sound, a recurring audio motif or a tone or a tag. I would say here you generally want to lean into having this bespoke made for you. And again, it doesn't have to cost you tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds, or dollars, wherever you are in the world. It just needs to be something that you have developed that you stick to and you use over and over again. And that is my third point. Relentlessly use it, repeat it, make it part of your signature and not an afterthought. That is the simplest way to begin. And then there's a mind shift change for your team. I would say sonic branding isn't an ad expense. Let's try and remove it from that kind of budget. It's not just, I don't have any budget left. It should be a conversation at the very, very beginning is, okay, great, we've worked out the visuals or we've worked out the storyline, like what's it going to sound like? And then maybe you could move on to what is it going to look like? Because at the end of the day, we're all on our phones now scrolling, is it something like 10,000 pieces of media like enter our worlds before lunchtime every day? Like, that's a crazy amount. Like, how are we going to cut through that noise is, I think, a really interesting question to be asking. Also, it's worth pointing out, let me just go back. It is an asset that grows value. So this is something that so many people just aren't thinking about is the more you use it, the more it actually becomes a valuable asset. I calculated that Intel had generated $6.9 billion, I think it was billion, not trillion, but $1 billion worth of work through the recognition of the brand. And when it's done well, there's an increase of 12%. So if you're turning over 100 million, 12% increase in brand recognition because you have sound, can impact a lot of those sales. And I'm not going to say that just improving your sound is going to increase your profit by 12%, but it's going to increase your recognition. So it is going to have impact on your next year's revenue. Like Mindship, like a logo, it compounds with every impression. So the more you use it, the more people recognize it. I was speaking to a guy today who was like, yeah, but it's going to take ages for people to get to know it. And I'm like, it took ages for people to get to know McDonald's and to get to know Netflix. It was consistency. And then after a while, people knew it. The earlier you start, the faster you own that mental space in your audience's mind. And I think this is a really important one. I think a visual shift sometimes can take a while to include in all of your assets that are going out, all of your touch points, all of your media types. Sound can kind of just slide in there. Sound can just become part of your strategy from today, from tomorrow, and nobody will really notice initially. But after a while, they'll be like, I know this song, or I know this sound. We've all had an advert that comes up on YouTube over and over again, or maybe on the TV. And after a while, you just know that song is associated with that brand. I mean, look at Jet2 right now. That's a crazy example. And I wouldn't recommend using other people's songs because all it takes is for Jess Glynn to do something naughty, like with Sky Bet, with Kanye, and all of that brand equity, is just down the drain. So it could have a very negative impact. Whereas if you have if you create your own asset, you're you're set behind your own reputation. I think that's a better way to approach that. So sorry, spitballing some ideas as I go here. So just to summarize, if your brand is silent, you're competing with one arm tied behind your back. You've got your visuals, you've got your fonts, you've got your colors, but you don't have this tool over here that is sound. And we really genuinely all the time tell brands, don't think about this as music. Don't think about this as nice to have. Just park that aside one moment and think, we're missing out on a tool here that we should be using because it is proven to be way more impactful than logos at the moment. System One, if you haven't heard of them, they're a great research company. They test marketing and they apply emotions to it. So they can track your eyes, they can track the shape of your face, so you can see if you're happy, smiling, or whether you're sad, frowning, and etc. It's really interesting to watch an ad with their graphs. So anyway, really interesting. And they recently did some research with TikTok and with Effie, I think it was, and they had a chart of the highest performing assets a brand can have in terms of recognition and emotion. And the very top one was Sonic assets. Then I believe it was, what was it next? I can't remember because it's not my field. I wasn't interested. What was it? I can't remember. And then third in line was then a bespoke Sonic logo. So you have a visual logo. Hear me out. We actually generate audio logos, like the McDonald's whistle, or if ever you've been to France and you've heard the train station sound, that's a really famous one as well. So we can generate those for people, and in first place and third place was those assets, and way down at the bottom was a visual logo. And that was between 15 different assets. That blew my mind that that's actually been proven to be the case now. So if you're here saying, I hear what you're saying, I like it, but visual logo is still way better. Brands aren't using, or marketing experts aren't using visual logos, etc. on screen in content anymore because of the fact it feels like an advert. It turns people off. Whereas if you've just got your sound happening at the beginning, people are primed and great. I've just heard the Netflix sound. This is going to be a trailer for something I might be interested in. I'm going to watch because I trust Netflix. But also it's not intrusive. You just kind of hear it and you're like, I know that. Why do I know that? And then you pause for that split second and you've broken the doom scroll. Develop one sound to own. Make sure your audience hears it everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Your hold music. I have these down at the bottom, online, video, social media, TV, retail, events, products, apps, mobile. Hold music is a great one as well. When people walk into your store, can the door sound be the sound that you have developed? So many different places. What were we doing recently? Oh yeah, with Shift, the sounds that we're creating, like some of these things. When you add the product to the basket on their website, that's going to be the sound of their product. Like, super cool. I think, let's see if I can do one. One I was developing was when you pay. It's like sound of coins, but it's the product. So we've included things. Oh, it smells so good. So we've included those things there. Bit of free promo there for Shift. Next video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a simple, low-cost sonic identity for your social media specifically. So let's tap into that first 2 seconds of a video and grab people's attention. That is everything from me today. If you've found this useful in any way, shape or form, maybe you want a chance to discuss this directly on a call, we can create a bit of a journey from where you're at today to 12 months from now or 6 months from now, however you want to go about it. I'm happy to just follow your lead. My email is there on screen. Other than that, hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed to us. We've got loads of content, little clips from our podcast and all sorts. Or you can just be here for our weekly new long form content, giving you all the information that you need. Also, ping a comment down below, like, what company do you work for? It'd be interesting to know what kind of an audience we're building up here, and hopefully have some great conversations with you, maybe over on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for watching.